see. What's a good talent I want? The cheese on fontaine. My implement I want. Ting anyway. Jimbo was there. Yeah, I tell talent to boy to talk on my way. Ting it and so bam. Who can be sunshine? Be a man of greatness now, a man so tall and man so kind. Be a man of wisdom now, a man of man and man not blind. Be a man of kindness now, a man so strong and tall and mild. Into the no tender tempegileo, into the matot and let it shine. This is what you are, this is how it was pledged now. This is what you be, every kind of man now. This is what you say with the kind of meaning. This is what you feel with the kind of feeling. We are growing higher and higher. Come on, growing higher. We are growing higher and higher. Growing
It's Power to Truth with Meon Kopotse, JJ Tawan. We're coming to you live from Hyde Park here in Johannesburg. A man of wisdom 10 years ago said to the Judicial Service Commission, if God wants me to be Chief Justice, so shall it be. He's 10 years down the line now. What are his reflections about his tenure in office? A tenure that was, of course, with a lot of heat, sometimes a lot of controversy. Tonight, an hour and a half with the former Chief Justice Mogoeng here tonight. Do stay tuned for that conversation. Dr. Mogoeng, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Doctor. I thank the Lord for releasing me to come and have a conversation with you.
No, wonderful. You know, interesting, you just said that you thank the Lord for releasing you, yes. Right? And I want us to, that's where I want us to start, yes. You know. 10 years ago, a lot of people were startled when they asked you, do you think God wants you to be Chief Justice? And yes. You said yes. 10 years later, some of them made a lot of noise about the fact that your religion or your faith yes. tends to come up a lot in your work. And some said, this doesn't work, right? Can you just address me just on that issue? How did you, in a sense, reconcile your faith, right, to which you have not been apologetic to talk about, and the high calling of being the highest jurist in the country for the last decade?
Well, what I've tried to share in the past and was contorted several times is this. 2004, Mafikeng Civic Center, a man from Pietermaritzburg who's still alive, Richard Gray, a prophet of God, called me out of the crowd and said, sir, what is the highest position in the judiciary? After asking me what I do for a living, and I said, I'm a judge. I said, Chief Justice. He said, the Lord says, you are going to be Chief Justice of this country. And thereafter, there were several other confirmatory prophecies. So when I was nominated, I was emboldened by the knowing that the God I serve is the one who has pointed a finger at me to glorify his name through me. So my elevation to the position of Chief Justice is traceable to none other but God. Many lied, of course, and said I was a friend to President Zuma. I had met him only once through the man who later betrayed me and said we were friends, when in fact it was at his request that I went to his village, Lomanyaning, to meet the man I never knew before for the first time, the second time being when Chief Justice Ngobo took me to his presidential palace for nomination. So I'm unapologetic about God because I'm nothing without him. So people can make all the noises they want to. That will never get me to the point where I get detached from God, because the minute I get detached from God, I'm finished.
Yeah. In a secular state, though, and when you look back now at your 10 years of being at the helm of the Constitutional Court,
Yes.
amongst others, right? Was there any hindrance at all? Let's park the fact that you are not apologetic about your faith. Yes, that's fine. But when you look back, do you think that there's a way in which this hindered you in any way, right? The fact that you are very pronounced about your faith while carrying out what in a secular state is a very secular job.
Well, even those whose blood boil, even those whose veins stand up because of hatred and the desire to run me down and expose me, can't point out one incident where I broke or compromised principle in pursuit of my faith. They can't.
Yeah.
But what they don't know, here is the secret. I ask God before I move. Lord, you are the one who put me in this position.
Yeah.
You knew what the Constitution and the laws say. What now is it that you want me to do? He has never failed me.
Yeah.
And he has never abandoned me.
There was criticism when you prayed in Parliament. There was one incident where you knelt and prayed in Parliament.
Yeah.
And they were saying, no, even the Bible says, no, you people must do this in private, and they mustn't, show off, so to speak, their faith. Number one. Number two, that in a secular situation, they argue you made other people uncomfortable who may not have the privilege to do so with their faiths, because in the judiciary, I assume there are people who have different faiths.
You know, when you are determined to misrepresent facts, those are the sort of statements that would come out inevitably. What did the members of parliament who spoke after my prayer say? More importantly, what did the head of state say in response to my prayer? I'll tell you what happened, though.
Yeah.
On that, I think the day before, I left Mafikeng and the Lord said, what is this thing about silent prayer? I said, Lord, what are you talking about? He said, you go to parliament, it's time for prayer. They say silent prayer.
Or meditation.
You don't know what to, or meditation. You don't know what to pray for. Before you know it, thank you. He said, I want you to pray for this nation. 3 minutes. In order to protect yourself, ask everybody to pray the way they are used to and to assume whatever position they are comfortable with for 3 minutes. And that's what I did. So if you wanted to walk out, you could walk out. If you wanted to lay prostrate, you could. If you wanted to stand up, you could kneel down and pray whichever way your faith, if you have any, permits you to. So I didn't constrain anybody, but there are people who are so anti-Christ that anything that smacks of Christ from a genuine Christian, they would want to run it down.
Yeah, your colleagues, I'm sure there must have been a pushback on the bench across the judiciary, right? Because there are people who feel strongly that you shouldn't have been so pronounced. How did you deal with that pushback?
There was no pushback. If any of my colleagues said anything, it must have been in corners.
Or they didn't confront you about it?
Never.
Yeah.
I mean, what was there to confront? Parliament did not express any reservations about it. The president didn't. What was the basis for praying? I mean, and think about what it is that we were praying about, Dr. JJ. We were praying about, I was praying. They overheard my prayer. I was praying that God should give us wisdom, should guide us to get out of the economic junk status that we find ourselves in, to pray for peace. How do you fight that? People insult. People take other people's wives. People are involved in corruption. The criticism is lukewarm. But when you pray unto the living God, I'm telling you, I don't know whether people worship Satan himself or what. They will jump and condemn prayer. Why? If they know that you are a Christian but you don't really mean it, you are pushing another agenda, and you can pray all you want in a stadium. By the way, talking about praying in private, why do they pray in stadiums? Why do they pray on the occasion of the inauguration of the president? Why is there silent prayer and meditation in parliament? Why is it not in private? Why don't they tell members of parliament you must have prayed silently or loudly in your homes before you come here? Parliament is a public thing, don't pray here. Hypocrisy at its worst. That's what is happening in our nation.
Let's fast forward to the last months of your tenure. We'll come and assess the lowlights and the highlights. You are now asked to apologize, right, for the statements you said in a webinar that had to deal with the issues of Palestine and Israel, right? How do you interpret, first of all, are you genuinely sorry, right, about what happened and what your colleagues in the JSE Conduct Committee found, right? Or, as you had said initially, that you would apologize only if forced by the law? Because sometimes when you apologize when forced by the law, it may be that you don't really mean to be apologetic. You are simply following the rules as a judgment has been handed down to you. Just take the country in your confidence on that matter once and for all.
JJ, the judicial, you would recall that initially, Deputy Judge President Mojapelo found me guilty of 5 acts of misconduct.
Yes.
The 3 were set aside on appeal,
yes.
And he had also ordered that I retract my statement that even if 50 million people were to march for 10 years on a daily basis, I will not apologize for what I don't believe to be wrong.
Yes.
But even if a small child were to help me realize that I've done a wrong thing, I won't hesitate
to apologize.
But if the law forces me to, I will.
Yes.
Now, what is it you want to know? I was found guilty on appeal for commenting on, criticizing, and proposing changes to a policy of the official policy of the South African government towards Israel. And the one about commenting on diplomatic relations is also on that policy. When I made this statement, I believe that there was a policy. You know why? Because when Honorable Maimana, at the time he was the leader of the opposition, visited Israel, there was a lot of criticism. So I assumed, I didn't check, that there was official policy that's of South Africa that is anti, so to speak, Israel.
Yes.
Now, when I appeared before, or when my case was heard by Judge Mojapelo, I believe that was the case. It was only when I was preparing the grounds of appeal that I learned for the first time that there is nothing I said that is contrary to the official policy of the South African government towards Israel. So I raised it on appeal. But I was still found guilty on the basis that, look, when you made that statement, although the policy does not exist, you believe that it existed. But because you believe that it existed and commented on it and criticized it, you are guilty. So there is an order. When an order, a lawful order is made, the rule of law demands of us to comply. And I have complied. It is not for you and I to moralize about whether I believe I was wrong or not. I was never asked by the decision to say whether I am wrong or not. I was asked to apologize, and I have apologized.
Is it my understanding that that was in the context of you being the Chief Justice? In other words, now that you are no longer Chief Justice, are you now free to comment on what at that point was called political controversy?
No. You see, when JJ, the Code of Judicial Conduct applies to all judges, even in retirement.
I see.
Yes. What it means, what the ruling against me means is that those of my colleagues, like former Deputy Chief Justice Tekamo Senate, who commented on the Constitution and criticized the exercise of presidential powers in appointing, for instance, leaders of Chapter 9 institutions. Those of my colleagues, like former Deputy Judge President Mojapelo, who criticized the exercise of constitutional powers by the President in appointing the Chief Justice, must be very careful not to do it again. Because if they do it on the basis of this, they have made themselves guilty. And there are many others. My colleague Edwin Cameron, for instance, commented specifically on the Israeli-Palestine situation. My colleague who works here from time to time, Dennis Davis, facilitated a discussion between some of those who laid the complaints against me some time back before they laid a complaint and those that are pro-Israel. In other words, a group that is pro-Israel and a group that is pro-Palestine. He facilitated that discussion. And you can't do that anymore as a judge because you are participating effectively in political controversy. So judges will have to be very careful going forward.
Would I be right to say then you are gagged to express your very strongly held views about how to tackle this Palestinian and Israeli conflict? Because what you said a lot of people may have thought this is like more like standing on the fence, because you are saying, I love Palestine, I love Israel.
Yes.
And people are saying, no, you need to condemn Israel for what they are doing.
When your child does something wrong at a practical level,
do
you hate her?
No.
Is it impossible to hate a person, to love a person, even if you disagree with them? Do you love only those that you agree with? You see, I wasn't standing on the fence. Part of what I'm found guilty for was that, it is important for peaceful coexistence between Israel and Palestine. I never said a single word anti anybody. It was not in my place from where I said.
So you are free to
start condemning Israel or condemning Palestine. No.
So the judgment doesn't say you can't comment on that, because there'll always be an issue that in a sense brings out this polarization between Israel and Palestine.
My understanding of the decision is, even if it is about peace, I can't say anything about Palestine and Israel, nothing. Even if it is about love, our people, you have the same ancestor, Abraham, can't you find it? I can't.
How do you feel about that? That sounds like you're gagging.
Forget about my feelings. Analyze the judgment, analyze the papers, and make up your own decision. I'm not going to comment. I don't want another complaint.
Former Chief Justice Mogoeng, on a fireside chat with us here on Power to Truth. After the break, we deal a little bit more with some of the lowlights and of his tenure. And a little later, what were the highlights? 10 years at the top of the judicial chain. What did he learn? What can we learn as a country going forward? Stay tuned for more conversation after the break.
And maybe it's necessary to reiterate what I said. I said, if there is any vaccine that is being manufactured to advance a satanic agenda of the mark of the beast 666, if there is any vaccine that is being manufactured for the purpose of corrupting the DNA of people, that vaccine must be burned. It must die. God must intervene and destroy it. So anybody who supports a vaccine that infuses 666 in the bodies of people, anybody who supports a vaccine that is meant to corrupt the DNA of people, I would understand if they raise an alarm. That's it. I want every corrupt thing to be destroyed. And if it is politics, it is the kind of politics that I'm happy to advance anytime, anywhere.
It's Power to Truth with Beon Khopote, JJ Tawana, special guest tonight, the former Chief Justice Mogoeng. Big controversy about vaccines and so on. By the way, just at the back of that, do you generally think that, judges' involvement in public discourse in South Africa generally has been either diminished or frowned upon, right? And in that context then, what is your own view about how people say, you shouldn't have said this thing because people are going to take you serious. Now people are not going to refuse to vaccinate, saying, oh, the Chief Justice talked about 666. You may have understood it, what you meant. Then you explained that clip shows that you had to come back and say, by the way, this is what I meant, right? Start with that first question, right? Judges' involvement in public discourse. Is it something that we frown upon generally in our country?
No, you wouldn't be having a judge here as an anchor. In fact, I'm surprised that you people in the media are not complaining that the judge is taking their work. You are not discussing, you are not criticizing. The difficulty with our country is there are judges and public figures who are singled out for criticism. There seems to be a narrative. There seems to be an agenda. If you don't fall in line with their agenda, if you are either not known to be supportive of that agenda, or it is not suspected that you don't pose any threat to the agenda, well, then you can do anything.
So the criticism is selective, so to speak.
It is very selective. Remember how I was praised? Well, let me just give you an indication. I was condemned as this incompetent fellow who can't even write judgment. Somebody even wrote a book. A president who can't read appoints a judge who can't write. They said I couldn't write judgments. They were silenced by the Nkandla judgment in particular. You know what happened? They thought I was anti-Zuma. I'm not anti anybody. I was praised. I was a hero. Once they realized that this man doesn't support the agenda, whatever it is. This man doesn't behave the way we want people to behave. Oh, all hell broke loose. And it has never stopped ever since. So there are those that are pampered. Other people can criticize, they can say whatever, they will never be touched. In fact, when you highlight what they have done, which is no different from what you have done, they say you are attacking the judges. That is what happened, by the way. In my response, in my appeal, to the judgment by Deputy Judge President Murjapelo. Part of what I did was to highlight that, but this man, you yourself, your lordship, you criticize the president for appointing the Chief Justice without consulting the public and publish the article in the Sunday Times. Have you now suddenly remembered that it is a wrong thing to express your views regarding the Constitution and the exercise of constitutional powers by the president? I said, by the way, I don't see anything wrong that you did. I cited a number of colleagues who have done similar things. I said, they have done nothing different from what I have done. Those that are selective. Mogoeng attacks the judges. And that is why I've stopped paying attention to the media, quite frankly. So I think there are those that are allowed to speak on any subject, but there are those that
once they speak, they
must be hunted. Even if it means you must lie. You must lie against them. Manufacture something just to get him and put him in his place. And I seem to be one of those.
Okay, let's talk about the 666 thing. Educate those who don't understand that, right? What is this 666? And why did you feel so strongly that you had to put it on the agenda? In other words, did you have information that says there may well be, right, vaccines that are so inclined or are so evil?
JJ, I'm not going to educate anybody about 666. Those who want to know.
They want to know, man.
No. There's mischief making involved here. You see, my position as a child of God is I want justice, I want healing, I want people to get out of the hopelessness in which they've been wallowing for a long time. I want people's dignity to be restored, the well-being of the people and of the nation to be restored. That's my assignment, that's my mission, my God-given assignment. So anything that is dangerous, whether it is through 666 or the corruption of the DNA, must be destroyed. I'll tell you like what? One relative of mine went to be vaccinated. Ever since, she can't be upright anymore. She's like this. In my village called Fikra, her name is Mampuna. I have seen things happening to some of the people that were vaccinated. Now, that must have been a wrong vaccination that the Lord led me to target in my prayer. And remember something else, JJ, because you people don't interrogate what you should be interrogating. I want to raise two things. Why is it that none of you people have ever questioned why the Disaster Management Act was resorted to instead of Section 37 of the Constitution? Why is it that you people who are always fishing out for the mogoens of this world never queried why Section 12(2)(c) of the Constitution that says our constitutional right to bodily integrity and psychological integrity does not permit that a medical or scientific experiment be done on our bodies without our informed consent? Why did you not question this? Because if the if the state of the emergency is declared in terms of the Constitution, you must still respect my constitutional right, 12(2)(c), not to have anything injected in me that is still in an experimental stage. You people are not querying it. You people are not even querying the latest amended regulation that effectively says once you go to a doctor and you are suspected of something, you must go and be injected. You should be questioning that. But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if somebody lodges a complaint about me for raising what should be an argument that you people are raising.
No, there's a lot of people who are questioning it. In fact, there are people who have gone to court trying to stop the disaster management, that there are political parties, commentators and so on who are saying, why are we still having this Disaster Management Act? So generally, while there may be general consensus, there are voices that are dissenting.
In the media,
that's where I want you to come in.
In the media. Are you people
not
raising
even in the media,
it in the same way that you were raging about me praying?
The media is not a choir.
No,
there are lots of people who are in discord.
People are insulting. People are destroying other people's families. People are stealing. You are not hard on them. Only some, not all. You people in the media.
Okay, let's go to vaccination itself. What are you saying to me tonight? Are you saying that 30% of the population, of the 40 now, of the adult population targeted, they were targeting 70% so that we can have what we call herd immunity? Is this something that you want to encourage? Let's talk frankly about vaccination as a way, as one of a few weapons there are to fight this pandemic.
One, there must be an open debate about vaccination.
Okay.
This stigmatization of people who ask questions about vaccination must come to an end. Two, you people in the media must raise concerns about why some clips that do not align with the vaccination agenda disappear like this. Why isn't there a free flow of information? Why don't you bring people from two sides of the story to talk about the support for vaccination and the opposition to vaccination?
Yes.
And also, are these vaccines, by the way, past the trial stage? Because I think I once heard the Minister of Health saying, you know, they are at trial stage. Are they still at trial stage or past trial stage?
Yeah. So are you saying you are skeptical of, if you like, the forced consensus around vaccination?
The Section 12(2)(c) of the Constitution is against forcing people to be vaccinated. Since when have people been forced to be vaccinated, by the way? Even when HIV and AIDS was raging, we were not forced to do anything. What is this about forcing people to be vaccinated? And two, if 50% of the workforce is vaccinated, they must be protected, right? Why is an employee who is not vaccinated dangerous to those that are already protected? The whole thing doesn't make sense, and you people don't question it. If you are double vaccinated, why is it dangerous for you to be in contact with a person who is not vaccinated? You are protected. You are in a bulletproof vehicle. What is your problem?
So if the country were to listen to you, you would say it must be a choice.
Of course it must be a choice.
Not that vaccination itself doesn't work. Because I just want to...
I don't know if it works.
Okay.
I don't know if it works. What I have heard is that some people who are double vaccinated were infected again. I just heard something. I wish I had a clip to show you. Unfortunately, you people don't allow us to come with our phones. That hundreds of thousands of people in the US who have vaccinated actually died. I don't know if it's true. Why don't you bring experts here?
Yeah, but if we talk about, let's just talk about the South African setup. The president, a couple of months ago, right, when he addressed the nation, talked about statistics, and I think he focused on the Western Cape to say 90% of people who perished at that point, right, are people who in fact had not vaccinated when we had a new wave, right? This was coming from official dome, right?
Yes.
I'm saying, is it right? And now we've got 40% of the population vaccinated.
Yes.
We haven't heard of a massive death rate that was as a result of that vaccination.
Yes.
Let's agree on that part.
I don't know. JJ, I'm saying, let the people who fear for their lives and want to be vaccinated,
do so.
Be vaccinated once, twice, and what is the other thing?
Booster shots.
Be boosted and boosted and boosted and boosted. But those that are skeptical, they must be left alone. I'm not saying it for the first time, by the way. I said it in the past. I said, you know, I heard from some global organization that there's a likelihood that we're going to be forced to use some vaccine-related passport. That shouldn't be. People should not be forced to be
travel
vaccinated.
Around the world.
And the president came out and said, no one will be forced to be vaccinated, and that clip circulated.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be forced to be vaccinated. The president has spoken.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one saying it. The president has, the clip is there for you people to listen to. So I'm just walking on the footsteps of my president. Nobody should be forced to be vaccinated.
What's your own assessment in terms of the pandemic? It's now almost 2.5 years into the pandemic, right? About how we can push back on so many people dying. I mean, so many millions of people have died from this pandemic, right? If you are part of the elders that were to say to this nation, this is how we should fight this thing, what would it be? There are people are saying, oh, cancel the thing, throw away the masks, let's just, it must be just all men, every man for themselves. What would be your, as now an elder of this nation, what would you tell me tonight?
JJ, I'm not an expert, but I've just seen what the Prime Minister of the UK said. He said that people now, I think it's over 2 weeks now, no masks, no mandatory vaccination. In the UK, I have seen people in France and other countries marching in their thousands, and you people are not showing us those clips, against vaccination, even in Australia. So I'm saying, let those that want to be vaccinated be vaccinated. I'm not vaccinated. I've never contracted this coronavirus. I've been mingling with people. I mean, October, November, I was addressing hundreds and hundreds of meetings, back to back, throughout the country. I've never been affected by this thing. So let those who want to be vaccinated be vaccinated.
Did you ever test in the last 2 years?
Of course I did.
And it was always negative?
It must be negative. It must be negative.
So what's your message to the country on the coronavirus tonight before we go to break?
Let those who want to be vaccinated be vaccinated. Don't force people to act against their own conscience. The president said no one will be forced to be vaccinated. I agree with him 100%. The
leader of the ACDP came to one of the shows here and was very clear about the same message that people shouldn't be forced. Is there a religious angle to this vaccination or anti-vaccination? I want to talk about that after the break.
No, there's no
just reflect on it. We'll come to it now. Is there a religious angle? In other words, Christians, Muslims, people of faith, should they be comfortable, right, to go and vaccinate without having any religious connotation that's attached to it? I'll talk about that after the break. Former Chief Justice Mogoeng on a fireside chat tonight here on Power to Truth. Stay tuned for more conversation after the break. It's Power to Truth with me on JJ Tawan. We continue with our fireside chat with the former Chief Justice. Almost 1 million people now have died in our country on the pandemic. We need solutions about how to fight this, right? And government at its highest level, and not too much, or rather in consultation with civil society partners, etc., even some of the churches and so on, have trumped this vaccination message, right? That's why I want you to put me at ease to say your approach to vaccination, right, does it have a religious connotation to it? In other words, people of faith need to worry about how they are relating with it, not just as a pure, straightforward medical thing, but as something that it may be at odds with their religion.
No, it's two-dimensional. I believe in the protection of the Almighty God, whether it's against crime or anything else. I believe that he's well able to protect me and those who believe in him. But also, we're not getting all the information on vaccination. It's one-sided. I mean, when this coronavirus thing started, JJ, the truth of the matter is, and that's partly why I stopped watching the news. You open TV, corona, almost as if we must fear now. We must be terrified and hunt down for the vaccination. You never saw any professor, any doctor allowed to express another viewpoint. And now, when you start getting information from the US, I was phoned by somebody, for instance, who has lodged a big case against the coronavirus issues and vaccination from Germany, who says they have either the former deputy CEO or the deputy president of Pfizer, the company, one of the companies that manufacture vaccines. you must get in touch with that. You must get hold of the information and see what somebody who was in the cooking pot of this thing was saying. And two, she was asked, because it's a woman, that woman, she was asked, do you think the president of your company has taken this thing? He says, I doubt if he would ever take that thing. In fact, some officials protested against being vaccinated themselves. Maybe she's lying. Put all the information on the table. Don't just tell us about death without ever telling us about the deaths of those who died as a result of vaccination. Is it a lie? I asked the question at one of the meetings that I addressed. I got information, for instance, that one woman in Tlhabologwe, in Mafikeng, strong, healthy, went to be vaccinated. When she came back, she was sick in 2 days. I beg your pardon, 2 weeks. She was dead.
But would you not
let
agree?
Me finish. Let me finish. Another advocate. I have his picture. He went to be vaccinated. When he came back, he was destroying his property in his house, and in two weeks' time, he was dead. What you need? Bring both sides of the story. Don't act as if you want
to. But you said you've stopped watching the news.
No.
There's been many debates like this.
People send the things to me. JJ, have you ever hosted both sides of the story from scientists?
No, absolutely.
Really?
I had that's what I was saying. The Reverend Misho was here. There were people.
He's not a scientist. I'm talking about scientists.
But across civil society, not just scientists are debating this thing. Churches, for example, you've just said to me, you mingled with hundreds of people. Do you know how many churches had to be closed in this period because the churches themselves, look at ZCC that gathers millions of people, stop gathering those people because of fear of infection. Surely that was a good approach that church took.
Absolutely.
And not to be so irresponsible just to say, forget about it, just gather nevertheless.
That was the right thing to do. Because
why was the right thing to do if there's no problem with vaccination?
I never said there was no problem. I'm saying, don't put words into my mouth. I say, let there be a free flow of information regarding coronavirus and vaccination. Don't come with intimidatory tactics. Don't attack people as if you are afraid of something that may come out. There have been many voices all over the world. Call those people via Zoom to participate in your program so that they can be criticized. But when the clips keep disappearing like this, you are raising unnecessary suspicion if your cause is clean. That is the point.
Before we get off this particular subject, what's your final word on vaccination vis-a-vis religion? Is your passion around this vaccination approach, right, informed by your religious views or not?
No. There is no free flow of information on the other side of the coin. Just bring all the information to the table so that we can fully appreciate the lies, if there are lies, against vaccination and the origin of coronavirus. Yes. Give us both sides of the story, not just one side. Don't act as if you want to instill fear in us. You want to secure desperation in us for vaccination. Don't. This is a very serious matter.
Every vaccination and every medication, you would agree with me, have side effects, right? The examples that you have given, would you agree, or at least concede this, that those are anecdotal?
No.
Given the scale of vaccination that has happened. 40% of the adult population being vaccinated. Surely if this thing was so dangerous, and we have now been, it's almost a year and a half into vaccination, people will be dying like flies.
What do you know about this science? You are pretending to be a scientist. You are just like me. You are acting on what you were told, and you swallowed it just like that. Now you are acting like some doctor of medicine. You know nothing about this thing. You are not an authority. I'm saying let's bring those in the know. Scientists on both sides. Both sides.
Are you saying to me the ministerial advisory committee that constitutes of scientists, right, that gives government and the Coronavirus Command Council advice both at national and provincial levels, those people are so mistaken? I want you to just take me into a confidence about why you'd be so suspicious of, because you are saying bring scientists. The reality is government has gathered those scientists as advisory committee. They're not just plugging the approach to this thing from the air.
You are not hearing me. Bring even those that are critical of the coronavirus issue itself. and the vaccination. Don't just ministerial. Even those that are saying there's something fishy here.
Yes.
Bring them here. Let them be exposed for the liars that they are believed to be. Not you. You know nothing.
So, please be frank with me.
Yes, right? I'm being frank.
The government, right, and you and I must talk about this now. To say, are you saying this government, right, in its approach over the last 2 years to deal with the coronavirus through linkages and networks with the World Health Organization and so on, none of it, right, must be believed, right, even though it is based on advice they get from the scientists you are talking about?
You know, JJ, you are speaking like somebody who is desperate to push a narrative. I'm saying to you, you and I are not scientists. We've heard one side of the story from that team that the president has gathered, but there are other voices.
No, but they were dissenting voices. But they were dissenting voices even in that committee.
We are in a conversation here. Let me also speak. There are other voices out there. Let's hear them. Let the clips not disappear as readily as they do, because we have those clips. That's what caused us to say, what's going on here? Doctors are presenting before the Senate in America on this issue. Others are saying, but there is a better medication, ivermectin. It is proved and tested. Let it flow freely. Let's hear these people, because you and I know nothing. Even the president is not a scientist. He has got his scientists. Let's bring those that could cause people to be suspicious of the good thing that he's doing. Let's hear their voices. Don't muzzle them.
What is your, we don't muzzle on this show. You can be sure, talk freely. What is your view about vaccine apartheid? There's been a lot of discussion about the fact that Western countries were hoarding the vaccines because they have decided that this is the way out of this coronavirus. Africa was put at the bottom of the list for vaccinations. If you pack your own views about vaccinations, do you think that there was something there that continues the colonialization about how to deal with world health matters that are governed through the multilateral organizations like the World Health Organization?
No, JJ, I will not comment on that. I've got no view. I don't know what happened. I hear what people are saying. I don't know what happened. I've got no view on that. All I know is that the levels of vaccinations in Africa are far lower
than the rest of the world.
Yes, far lower than those that are vaccinated. That is the thing. Why? Somebody released a clip and said, you know, it's strange. Some European person. It's strange that Africa, the level of vaccination is very low. And the level of infection is also comparatively very low. What does that mean? Bring the scientists on both sides of the horizon. Let's hear them. Not this push and intimidatory approach and the noises. I can tell you now, you see the views I've expressed. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not reported to the JCC. They will do anything to silence your free expression of your views.
Okay, so finally, just in terms of going forward now, there's a lot of people who are saying stop the disaster management. That everybody must just really be free. You have just quoted what happened in the UK where they're saying throw away the mask and so on. Would your view that we need to go back to the drawing board, right? I heard you about bringing the debates, and I think that's fair comment, right? But would you be able to say go back to the drawing board? Is it as the elder of this nation, we must go back to the drawing board about how to fight this corona? Because the reality is 1 million people have died in this country.
I don't know how many people have died of coronavirus.
We're approaching 1 million.
No, I honestly don't. I honestly don't. All I can say is this seems to be a very serious situation, as a result of which many people have lost their jobs. Many businesses have gone down, and people are not able to catch up with their payments. It's a matter so serious that it requires a definitive answer. And the way to get to the bottom of this, and maybe we must all be vaccinated, but the way to get people to that point is to free the flow of information.
Yeah.
The media
so people can make up their own minds.
They must appreciate what the solution is. Even the issue about ivermectin or any other alternative medicine that people think is out there. Bring people to the table and say once and for all, we want to deal with this thing. This is not something for ideological differences. It is a life-threatening situation, because when people don't have what to eat, when there is a risk of people dying, you need a solution there, a clear solution. So don't just do what others do. Be satisfied that it is what is in the best interest of the nation.
After the break, I want to tackle another issue that was of controversy that you raised very pointedly at the Nelson Mandela lecture that you gave, judicial capture. Right? A lot of people wouldn't expect the Chief Justice to put it so blatantly that there are people who are attempting to capture what many would consider as the last line of defense for our Constitution. So after the break, we talk about that. We're talking to former Chief Justice Mogoeng, a fireside chat that's fiery, as you can see. After the break, we ask him, what on earth did he mean that those who want to capture the judiciary? Stay tuned for more conversation.
Because of the critical role that the Constitutional Court and the judiciary in general has to play in transforming our society through the Constitution, we owe it to this country and generations to come to make sure that we don't have a compromised judiciary. We have got to be interested to know how people get to be appointed to office. You have got to observe carefully. You have got to watch carefully how people are being interviewed, because there are times when you can tell certain people are being shielded from being asked critical questions.
It's Power to Truth with me on Kopotse, JJ Tawan, going into extra time now in our fireside chat with former Chief Justice Mogoeng. Big discussion over the last couple of weeks about how the JSC conducted interviews. It's interesting, that clip was way before the interviews. And then, of course, we are now in the throes of debating whether or not these interviews, first of all, are legally sound. Secondly, are appropriate to select judges. Weigh in on that issue for me following that clip where you questioned how people are actually put into office. And there, particularly, I was talking about judges.
Dr. JJ, I've had my say.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to comment on that process at all.
Okay.
I've said what I've said. That's it. I'm not going to try and act like somebody who's trying to rule from the grave. I've done my bit, that's it. No comment.
Do you believe, right, in the 10 years that you have observed the judiciary, right, that the public has something to worry about in terms of the capture of the judiciary? We've been talking about state capture, and that assumes that we need to examine how the executive, how the legislature, and how the judiciary conduct itself in contradistinction with business, with interests and capital to make those interests happen?
Well, any human being and any professional is capable of being captured. I mean, look at it this way. Haven't you heard of attorneys or advocates being struck off the roll as a result of dishonesty? What do you think is going to happen if that lover of money, that lover of fame, that lover of power, that lover of praise or publicity, somehow finds his or her way into the judiciary, and an impressive offer is being made? What is going to happen? At the end of the day, we're all human. It's all a question of whether you are a person of integrity or not. And I've said it before, I say it again, you know, becoming appointed as a judge does not automatically render you insulated from the influences out there.
Or infallible.
It depends on who you have always been. Are there principles you hold so dear that you would rather be mocked, you would rather be lied about, you would rather be killed than compromised? That is the bottom line. And that is what is going to determine whether you are a potential candidate for capture or not.
Yeah. What triggered that comment at the Nelson Mandela? Surely it can't have come out of the blue.
Observation.
Observation in your tenure?
Observation. That's all. Observation.
What did you observe?
Now I've observed things, just as I've observed how you people do things. I've been vigilant.
Yeah, you've been vigilant in your role. Has there ever been an attempt to capture you in the tenure? 10 years is a long time to be in power. They always say, absolute power corrupts. If you are in power too long, that's why we always say people must change office and so on. Has there been any approach to you that where you said, my God, this is happening to me, they're trying to capture me?
No. The only thing that happened, and I'm not sure whether they were trying to capture me or not, but I was uncomfortable, was that offer of 600 million for court modernization. Court modernization,
Who made the offer?
I will not tell you. You know why? I've explained it on 702 some time back.
Yeah.
You see, a respectable person, well-meaning person approached me on behalf of the potential
financier.
Yes. And I said to myself, this one could not be party to this thing. He doesn't know this individual from America the way I know this individual.
I see.
And I'm never going to accept anything from that one.
Yeah.
So maybe the person was just being benevolent, but my conscience said no.
One of the things that people are worried about is the proximity between the Justice Department and the Chief Justice, if you like, or rather the judicial system as such. In other words, the dependency of this system on the Justice Minister's budget vote. And so I know that there's been discussions about how to separate those and have different administrations, which I think part of what you did during your tenure, you tried to fix. Can you address me on that, right? Should it be so separate completely that there will not be a counter checks, so to speak, in terms of how, for example, the judiciary spends its money, etc., etc.? Or must it be so separate that you conduct everything from your own budget to how the resources are spent and how you control your judges and so. For example, you don't have to go and ask for leave from the minister.
Well, that's how separate it should be. That's how it is in the United States of America. That's how it is in Singapore. That is how it is in Malaysia. That is how it is in Russia. That is how it is, that's how it is in Kenya.
Yeah.
Kenya is an outstanding example of separation of powers. So that's how it should be. And the establishment of the Office of the Chief Justice as a national department has gone a long way towards demonstrating how things ought to be. Unfortunately, we are not at a level where we should be now. There's still some powers that are held by the Ministry of Justice that ought to be with the judiciary. And more importantly, the judiciary is a co-equal arm of the state. The minister is a junior to the Chief Justice.
Yes.
So you can't have a situation where a junior grants leave to a superior. You can't. When there has to be a meeting between the minister and the Chief Justice, because the minister is a junior, he must go to the Chief Justice. Yeah. So it makes a mockery of the judiciary being a co-equal arm of the state with the executive and parliament for some kind of an arrangement to exist in terms of the Chief Justice must now seek permission from the minister to go on leave. It doesn't really...
Yeah, we'll talk about that leave just now. What's your assessment, right, in the 10 years that you've been there? Because people would expect you to be able to look back with reflection because you are now not in office, right? Would you say to me with a straight face, there has never been an attempt at judicial interference? Secondly, would you say to me that the noises made about judicial overreach were exaggerated? Answer those two for me.
Well, you say an attempt made at interference?
From the executive into the judiciary, judicial interference of, rather executive interference in the work of the judiciary in the 10 years you have been there.
If it ever happened, then somebody must have been approached privately.
Okay.
But no one has ever tried that with me.
You called a meeting with the former president concerned about some attacks on the judiciary.
Yes.
At that point, I remember that there was at least the general secretary of the ANC then, Gwede Mantashe, calling judges counter-revolutionary. I can quote other, quotable quotes from other members of the alliance. You called a meeting, you're concerned about it. Did that concern or raising that concern that way, the high level, help better the situation for the rest of your term?
I believe it did, because not only did we call a press conference with colleagues in attendance, but we had a meeting with members of the executive. We drew up a plan in terms of which we're going to relate. If a member of the executive has a concern, they must know how to channel it, and the heads of the arms of the state will address whatever concerns are there. We addressed the press together and made ourselves available for questions. I believe that it went a long way towards helping everybody appreciate that the judiciary is not a junior partner in the handling of state affairs.
Judicial overreach, you were criticized for summoning ministers and going through the detail of what they ought to do, and people were saying, that was too much, in terms of almost micromanaging the executive in terms of what they're supposed to do. Your view on that?
How? Elaborating on the oath of office. Is that what they are talking about? I didn't see the criticism, but I think it was mischievous if there was any criticism. Just to say this is what you are about to do is about. It's not a ritual. It's serious business here. I don't think I was overreaching. But people, of course, it's a free country. Others are entitled to their views. But I don't think I was overreaching. People don't understand overreach. Overreach is when you exercise the powers of another arm. I never exercised the power of the executive. I didn't do anything that is exclusively executive. It was my responsibility, constitutional responsibility, to administer the oath. And I wasn't going to do it robotically. I had to help people appreciate that it's not just for a photo shoot. Serious business this. You are making a commitment to the nation. You better be true to it.
Then the judgment, very landmark judgment in one of the things where it pronounced on the gap that Parliament left in as far as its exercising of its job was concerned, hence the Nkandla matter was left hanging. I know that you can comment in detail on the case, but as an overall principle, right, do you believe that the judiciary could have done more to guide Parliament of what then to do to remedy that situation? Because they still went back and practically did nothing. In fact, the Nkandla whole situation is repeating itself now with an MP being suspended for saying the president must come and account to Scopa.
No, there isn't much that the judiciary should have done and can still do. Everything is in the Constitution. It's just a question of being true to the responsibilities you assume as a member of Parliament. That is it. It's all there in the Constitution. We're just reminding them of the obvious.
There seems to still be some fire left in you, in your belly. And I want you, after the break, to take us into confidence. What next for Mogoeng? We'll talk about that after the break as we round off that conversation. Fireside chat rounding up after the break with former Chief Justice Mogoeng. Stay tuned.
We, the people, are also forced to appreciate now more than ever before the collective wisdom of the drafters of our Constitution in ensuring that, and I quote, there is separation of powers between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, with appropriate checks and balances to ensure accountability, responsiveness, and openness.
It's our fireside chat with former Chief Justice Mogoeng continuing. I just want, before I get into your future in terms of what you plan to do, surely you've come across the debate that's been raging about the Constitution. A lot of people asking themselves, 25 years of the Constitution, right? Are there gaps that could have made the Constitution a better instrument of changing the lives of the people? We've seen the debate. Interestingly started by one of the members of the executive who's been in the executive for the last God knows how many years, saying this thing is not, first of all, it's not African based, it's foreign inspired. Secondly, it is not helping to lift out the black person out of the poverty that they are in. Your comment.
Well, maybe there is a need for change. Maybe there is no need for change. But here is the bottom line, JJ. Using the same constitution, I say without any fear of contradiction that as the judiciary, we've been able to do what the Constitution permits us to do and made great strides with limited resources. I mean, just look at the programs that we have been able to embark upon in an attempt to be true to the constitutional mandate that rests on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Whether it's informatization or digitizing the judiciary, enhancing access, it's a question of those in the executive, those in parliament.
Yeah.
What is it that the Constitution allows them to do?
Yes.
And are they doing it? It's not so much about the kind of document that you have available.
Yeah.
It is more about the commitment to the fulfillment of the mandate that rests on your shoulders.
Yeah. That's interesting because that's point a finger directly at the executive to say, you got an instrument, you got to use it in a particular way. If you don't, you can't blame the instrument. You got to blame those who are holding the instrument and are supposed to use it. But similarly, and I'm going back to this same article, right? Judges are pointed at to say, these guys are house niggers, they are sitting there and they are not doing what they're supposed to do as the judiciary in order to facilitate the Constitution becoming that instrument of change. You have to comment on that. You've been lumped together as house niggers, as the judiciary.
JJ, I'm not taking the bait.
Okay.
I'm saying there is so much that we all could have done and can still do as the judiciary, as the executive, and as the legislature. The question is, have we done what the Constitution and the laws and the budgets at our disposal allowed us to do? Whatever it is, have we done what circumstances permitted us to do?
Answer that for yourself for the 10 years you have been in charge.
Yes.
Is there anything that you think here was a gap or here was a missed opportunity for the power and very, very huge power that the judiciary has in relation to the Constitution that we didn't do and we must still do?
You know, I say it with all sense of humility.
Yeah.
Even if you listen to all those who were interviewed for the position of Chief Justice, I dare say none of them came up with anything new in their vision that hasn't been done already. Accountability, never before have you seen the judges, the judiciary coming together openly without sensitizing people to anything, to account to the general public, with members of parliament present, from time to time the speaker or the deputy speaker and the chair of the NCOP and the media, making ourselves available for questions and not leaving until the media had run out of questions. Never before have the media come up with instruments in terms of which the performance of the courts were to be tested. Never before. Never before have you come up with systems in terms of which we were going to fight this trend of judgments taking too long or trials taking too long unnoticed before they are finalized. So all things that we could do, even the institutional independence of the judiciary, we have done them. We have empowered traditional leaders. You know, when I came into office, the South African Judicial Education Institute was there in paper only. It had never functioned. Within 2 months, it was working. We've brought together all the stakeholders that have a role to play in the justice sector at a national level and provincial level, so that we can talk about the challenges to the efficiency and the effectiveness of the court. So we've done a lot. I stand to be reminded what is it that it is believed we could have done, but we did not do. I don't remember.
There was a lot of noise about the transformation agenda. In fact, all the judges who are vying for position of Chief Justice were quizzed on their transformation agenda. Is there something, one or two big things that you can say to me, you pushed that agenda in your tenure to change the face of the judiciary?
No, it also depends on what you mean by transformation. It is important that we transform the judiciary in terms of gender as much as we have
Yeah.
But you must be very careful not to be superficial in doing it.
Yeah.
It's not just a question of grabbing black people and putting them in, or grabbing women and putting them in.
Yeah.
Have you laid the foundation for credible candidates to be available for appointment? And that goes back to the issue that I raised in my first speech after being appointed as Chief Justice at the Western Cape University.
Yeah.
The briefing patterns,
Yes.
the instruction giving patterns. If you don't give quality work to women and black people,
Yeah.
they will not have the opportunity to sharpen their forensic skills, to equip them properly to become judges. And if you just go in to grab them like that, you will be complaining about the failure of the judiciary to deliver as much as they did, because you never prepared the foundation well.
Yeah.
So deal with the fundamentals first. Address the foundational challenges first in order for that to happen. I think we have transformed very well under the circumstance. Show me a country with the same history of independence or period of independence that compares to us. Which one? You'll never come across it easily.
There was a lot of irritation about the question, is South Africa ready for a female Chief Justice?
I don't understand that question, but it's okay. Colleagues who asked it understand it and saw the need for it.
Yeah. What next for Mogoeng?
You know, I said
a lot of mutterings about the fact that some people are pushing you to run for political office so you can implement all your strong views to change the trajectory of the country.
Well, that's an old argument, isn't it? When you, Karen Mon, and Kathy Mutlatlana interviewed me at Newsroom Africa, you would recall that there were messages coming in. Ask him, is he going to run for president? And one of you said, you know, you never got to answer that question, but you truly look presidential. that question has been following me. It followed me here. I was interviewed by, I forgot the young man who is an anchor here. SABC, Newsroom Africa, radio, even the meetings that I address, even abroad. All I'm prepared to say is, I am ready and willing to do whatever God wants me to do. Who knows? Maybe being found guilty of being involved in politics is a challenge. It is to say, man, step out of this judiciary, enter politics so that you can be free to talk politics.
What is the Lord saying? Because you are very clear when 10 years ago, when you were asked, what is the Lord saying about you being Chief Justice? What is the Lord saying about the rest of your life?
You know, the Lord has spoken, but he hasn't released me to say what he has said.
I thought he released you to come here today.
You know why he spoke? He spoke from 2004. He's been speaking all the time. This is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen. But he never released me to share it publicly. But when he does, I don't care who says what. I will do what the Lord said. People can condemn, they can say whatever. But when the Lord says this, I'll obey, because I know he'll protect me.
What is the state of our nation now? You are an elder statesman now. You have had time to reflect. By the way, did you feel left out, having to take leave at the tail end of your term of office? Because it looks like that's where the exciting things were happening. I mean, this country, you know, ended up jailing a head of state, which is quite a dramatic thing that doesn't happen in many countries. And you are on leave. Did you feel left out, you know, in a sense of that kind of, if you like, a moment of leadership that was required of the judiciary on your colleagues?
No. You know, what many people don't know was that, you know, I felt when I was, when I had served 7 years already as Chief Justice, that I've done all that I needed to do. I started looking for a legal loophole for me to retire without losing out on my benefits. I couldn't find it. So when I, on the 11th hour almost, asked the officials to find out if I have leave days left, and they said, you do it. I jumped for it and went on leave. Mischief makers said I was on suspension. I don't know for what. You know, the lion spirit is mesmerizing our people. So I didn't feel left out. I think it was time for my colleagues who are competent and well able to handle any task that come their way to carry out that assignment. I didn't feel left out at all. A
number of judgments almost become like landmark judgments. They become instructive to how our jurisprudence grows, right? Are you constrained going forward, for example, if you're to lecture, etc., to actually make reference to some of those judgments, or in a sense, can you comment on some of those judgments to shape jurisprudence going forward?
Judgments by colleagues or by me?
By yourself?
No, I'm not constrained. As long as that is done carefully. You
Yeah.
know, you mustn't look like you are trying to promote yourself.
Yeah.
You mustn't force your judgment into the equation when in fact you could have communicated without it. Let it not be as if you are trying to silence those that say, no, he doesn't even write judgments for himself. There's
Yeah.
a dunderhead, he's not even competent. No. Just communicate your message as
Yeah.
clearly as you can, and only if it is necessary for you to refer to your judgments should you do so.
I see. A lot of people were fascinated by the fact that you wrote a letter, right, to Jacob Zuma and said, please tell us how we must punish you. You know, they felt, but
Did I do that?
I'm paraphrasing. You wrote a letter to him to give him yet another chance
I was not
to express
involved.
himself.
I was
You're
not involved in that case. And I'm not going to comment on what my colleagues did.
No, but the letter that you wrote before you went on leave, you wrote to him to say he must write back to us as a court.
No, I didn't write the letter. You see, correspondence from the
Office
court
of the Chief Justice
goes out in the name of the head of the court.
I see. So you're clearly not informed, and you didn't feel a sense of being left out in that.
No, left out from what? You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't gunning for anything. I do my
Yeah.
work as it comes.
Yeah.
I wasn't left out at all. There was nothing to leave me out from. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it was a case like any other.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
But you asked me something
Yes.
about where we are and
The
so on.
state of the nation.
No, I think freedom of expression has gone out of the window.
Why? Why would you say that?
No, there is a lot of harassment
Yeah.
of people who dare to express themselves freely as long as what they say
Yeah.
does not accord with a preferred narrative. I think we must correct that. Number two, I'm appealing to even you, the media.
Yeah.
Just spread the pool out of which you invite commentators. You know, you find almost one and the same analyst
repeating themselves.
when it comes to certain topics. It's almost as if you want to know whether they are going to support a particular narrative or not. And if you suspect that they are not, they are left out. There are those that are frequent and those that you hardly ever see.
Yeah.
Let's open up the debate. By the way, that is very much in line with this coronavirus thing that you are so emotional about.
Yeah.
Even there, you people seem to be very selective about what you say and who you invite.
Yeah.
Let's free speech. Let's free expression. Debate cannot kill. It can only make us better.
Yeah.
I think.
Is that your general impression? Because if you look at what's happening in different countries, even in our continent, right, we are rated highly in terms of people being able to express themselves, right, and
even now.
Even now.
Really? I wonder
how they've been arrested long ago when I live here.
I wonder who's rating you. I don't get a sense that there is free expression, JJ. I can tell you now.
Yeah.
You see, I'm expressing myself as a citizen here.
Yes. Tomorrow.
I'm telling you, they are waiting. And even lying, people have professionalized lying.
Yeah.
They lie with a straight face.
Yeah. But if you look at the number of NGOs, a number of faith communities, churches and so on, who always are critical of the establishment, critical of what's going on, would you really say people are not free to express themselves?
I don't sense that people who are fundamental in relation to the proposals they make, who are people who are out of the narrative,
the normal narrative,
are tolerated. There's a lot of hatred.
Yeah.
There is a lot of emotion. There are a lot of strong words being used. I mean, look at some of the commentary, for instance, regarding how some people behaved in the JSC. People are destructive in their comment. Why can't you just be calm and logical and be rational in criticizing another person? Must we insult?
So that's the first thing about the state of our nation. You feel that what the Constitution gives us, that freedom of expression, is a bit under threat.
It's under threat?
Yeah. What else for you defines.
That should extend even to the debate around coronavirus and vaccination. I'm worried, JJ, that there are many people who want to start business at entry level.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a very serious discussion with one of the first ladies about this matter, but they just don't have access to funding. Just imagine what could happen to our economy if people in the villages and in the townships had access to as little an amount of money as they needed to plant their yards, to plant their fields.
So you think the economic approach is weak? Would you say that? Would you say our economy, the president
I don't want to condemn. I'm just saying it would help if people who have no access to funding at a basic level, whether it's a spaza shop or whatever.
That's why we have a minister of small business.
I don't want to be
innovative.
I don't want to be hauled before the JCC on the basis that
you commenting
on a political matter. I'm just saying people need food.
Yeah.
And I have seen what my wife has been able to do with her own little yard at home. If only people could have access to resources to start up whatever small business they want to start, I think we will go somewhere.
You have seen it all.
And prayer must be encouraged. People mustn't condemn prayer in the manner that they did, because when it was very difficult during the apartheid era, it was to Regina Mundi and other churches that we went to pray. But now people are so anti-prayer, so anti-Christ. It's not funny. And at times they get supported by some of the pastors in their approach, unfortunately.
You have seen it all in the 10 years with cases being brought before you and so on. And of course, the last 3 years were all regaled by what was, or shocked by what has been happening right under our noses where corruption is concerned. Is it a cancer you think, right, the judiciary can be a bulwark against? Is it a cancer you think the country has it under control or not, corruption?
I'm not sure that the country has it under control. I even think that we're probably selective in dealing with those that are corrupt. I think there are many corrupt people. Some are confronted, others are protected. That's what I think.
But is it a cancer you think we can defeat?
Well, it can be defeated with absolute ease. Remember, I always give the example, please, he hasn't given me any money, about President Paul Kagame.
All right.
Put aside the human rights concerns that people have.
Yeah.
A country with nothing, no crime, no filth in the streets, the economic growth, even in villages, that you can only marvel at. Meaning, if you have that kind of a leader even here, we could achieve the same. It all starts with a leader.
Absolutely. Justice Bohweng, thank you so much for sharing of your views tonight. And I hope the Lord will release you once again. You talk to us again in the future, because we're never going to get enough. There will never be enough time to draw into from your wisdom acquired over so many years of service to our nation.
Thank you for attacking me like this.
No, not at all. Thank you for making time.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
It's appreciated. It's not taken for granted.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. That was our fireside chat tonight with former Chief Justice Bohweng. He has made it clear that he will run for office if the Lord says so. Otherwise, he's waiting on the Lord to instruct him what he must do with the rest of his life. But until we talk frankly again, may God bless you.
Usibuluke
to come to